Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined by both my co-hosts this week, Jacob Boyers and Tyler Britton. Guys, the Cats are back over 500, get to 2-1 with the win over Eastern Michigan. 48-23 is the final score. A lot to take away from this game, guys. Just kind of want to get your early thoughts and your big takeaways from the Cats win.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the win is what it is. I think we all kind of predicted the game was going to be, in the 40s for the Cats. I would say that, we probably rotated guys in a little early. I think we allowed too many points up on the Eastern Michigan side. I'm looking at Eastern Michigan's passing game. I'm kind of shocked that they even got the 330, to be honest. I know we're rotating guys in, but I still think that's a little high on my end. But glad we got some points on the board. Looks like Tanner Boley had to get there throwing the ball as expected. But doesn't look like I don't know if we necessarily cleaned a lot of things up. I think we just went out there and played a team that wasn't that good.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed in the defense, giving up 460 total yards. And Tyler, I know you said rotating guys in, but I mean, really kind of throughout the game, besides that first pick to start it, it felt like they were moving the football down the field. Now, we obviously got the stop on fourth down on their second drive, but this wasn't the defensive performance I was expecting. I didn't think Eastern Michigan would score a touchdown, let alone get into the 20s. Offensively, I thought the run game looked obviously dominated as we kind of expected. To the point you made last week, Cam, like Seth McGowan, he's your guy. He's got to get the majority of carries. He looked like a superstar again Saturday. And then I know we'll really kind of dive into Cutter. I thought he looked fine. I'm not going to say he lit the world on fire or anything, but I think he looked fine, and I think he showed you enough to kind of be this QB1 for the team going forward, at least until he throws himself out of, having that moment.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, there's really only two position groups I saw that I came away feeling good or feeling better about than I did last week. And that's the tight ends and the running backs. It's really the only the position groups that I came in. And those are really the position groups that we knew a lot about. We knew that they were going to be solid for us. Seth McGowan, I mean, 6 touchdowns through 3 games. I'm telling you guys, told you during the offseason, Seth McGowan, that's going to be our bell cow. That's going to be how we win games. And hopefully, we're starting to realize that. Hopefully, a week off before we go to South Carolina gets him a little rested up. As with Dante Dowdell, who got a little banged up in this game. So hopefully with the week off, he's back and ready to go. But I love what I saw from Jason Patterson as well. I mean, 13 carries for 80 yards in this game, most of it coming in the fourth quarter, obviously. But you saw that when Dante did go down, we still do have that running back depth, especially with the question marks with Jamarian Wilcox going and his suspension or being away from the team.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think it showed – I mean, we understand, like, this team's going to have to run the football. Patterson's a guy that I thought up until this point would have played a little more and, to not really see him, but then to kind of see him for the first time and he goes out there and has 80 yards and a touchdown, I think it does show the depth in that room. But, yeah, obviously you want Dowdell healthy. I still think he's got a huge role on this team, especially in those, third and shorts or, to-goal situations. But, yeah, McGowan's got to be the guy that's getting – I think you said the number of 60% last week, Cam. I agree, 65% of your carries, I think, got to go through Seth McGowan currently.
Yeah, I might even went more than 60%. I think I might have said 70.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
I really think – I mean, when you talk about the situational role that you have for Dante Dowdell, I think this fits him perfectly. Because Seth McGowan is not necessarily, even though he has 6 touchdowns already, might not be the guy that you really want to lean on down in those red zone areas and short yardage areas. So when you can spell him with Dante, I think that really does give us a nice 1-2 punch. But I did want to talk about these tight ends. Big Dog leaves to Louisville, and all of a sudden, we are just force-feeding these tight ends. Really, I mean, that's the only – right now, outside of going to Josh Caddis or Willie Rodriguez? Is there somebody who you feel like is coming down with the ball outside of those two?
No, and it's pretty crazy. For 13 years we begged them to throw to the tight ends. Now we're trying to figure out why they're not throwing the football to the wide receivers. But whatever the reason is, I mean, I'm not going to complain. I mean, Caddis and Willie Rodriguez are by far your two most sure-handed receivers you have out there. So you're going to throw them the football, and both quarterbacks that have leaned heavy on throwing to the tight ends. So it's nice to get them involved. Obviously the wide receiver production is still non-existent, and it's got to get better, but it is nice to kind of have two tight ends that you can feel confident that if you throw them the ball, they're more often than not going to come down with it if you put it in the right spot.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say that is kind of worrisome just to kind of watch our receiving core. We're going against Eastern Michigan. It just doesn't seem like they're going out there and making plays and wanting to get the ball. And it's kind of starting to worry me a little bit. We're 3 weeks in. This was supposed to be the game that they were supposed to really scheme open the receivers a little bit better and just have a better day overall. But it just didn't seem like they were getting open. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm happy the tight ends are getting the ball, and that's where we're going to go. That's fine. But it kind of gets worrisome when you start talking about some of the better competition we're about to be facing here.
I will say, just scheme wise, I actually thought this was a pretty well executed game plan from Bush Hamdan. Now, like you mentioned, we are facing Eastern Michigan, who just lost to Long Island, and Texas State the week before that. But I mean, guys were schemed open. Hartley was schemed open on a couple. Fred Ferrier had a drop or two as well mixed in there. Jamori Macklin was schemed open. I mean, like I said to you guys before this game started, the biggest halt I have with Cutter and Zach is both their progression to get through reads. When I was watching this Eastern Michigan game, I don't know if there was a singular play where there wasn't at least an open receiver and or tight end. And we still missed guys. Now, granted, a lot of those were not necessarily Cutter's faults. There were some drops. We did have 2 touchdowns called back from penalties, one to Kendrick Law and Henry Boyer as well. But, I mean, I am worried about the receivers because you don't get to play Eastern Michigan every week, and I think we kind of stressed that after the Ole Miss game. But I do think Bush deserves a little bit of credit for being able to scheme open those guys, because there was a lot of plays that I looked at and I was like, I've never seen Bush run anything like this. Like at one point we had Kendrick Law in the backfield, Seth McGowan split out wide. We ran a little fake jet sweep to Seth McLaughlin, leaked out Kendrick Law out in the flat. That's where he scored what would have been his touchdown, but Hardly Gilmore had a holding call that called that back. And that was an outstanding play call using Seth McGowan, who is our best playmaker, using him as a decoy, which is something we've begged Bush Hamdan to do with Barry and Brown last year to get other guys open. So seeing that, will it work as well against South Carolina? I'm not sure, but seeing that gives me a little bit more faith in what Bush is kind of cooking up there.
Yeah, I thought it was his best game, and I know we talked briefly off air, but I thought this was just a game where, I mean, there were obviously mistakes by the players and penalties, but throughout it felt like the offense in general was just more on kind of the same page. You didn't have as much of the standing around waiting to get the plays in, getting guys lined up, extremely late. I thought the offense looked more, I guess, efficient. Again, you're playing Eastern Michigan, but still, the little stuff is stuff that we talked about. You like to work out in a spring game, so I don't really care if they were playing, the third string UK defense. It was just nice to kind of see a handful of those things that we complained about so much after the Ole Miss game look a little better.
Yeah,
I do agree with that too. I think that cleaning up some of the small stuff that we said that needed to be cleaned up in spring training was the focus for this week. But I still think there's room for improvement. I think if this is the best we're going to do against Eastern Michigan, I just get worried when we go down the stretch here. But I'm happy that we're cleaning some things up too, because that's gonna hopefully start to help us out. We got a bye week coming up this week, so maybe we can focus on some things in practice, get ready for South Carolina. But I don't know. I just get a little worried sometimes when I'm not seeing production out of the receivers when we're the SEC team and it's Eastern Michigan. So.
Oh, I mean, let's put it this way. I'm wholeheartedly with you. I mean, this performance from the offense did not inspire any confidence in me. even though they technically went above what my scoring prediction was. That's also because the defense was on the field and allowing a bunch of yards throughout the entire time. So they got more possessions than I thought they would. So I wouldn't even say they outperformed what I thought they were going to do. Like, if you told me that Eastern Michigan outpasses us by 90 yards, I mean, what are we doing? Like, I just genuinely don't even understand, like, what's going on. I mean, let's also take it for what it was. Cutter was 12 for 21. It's like right at like 56%, 57% passing against Eastern Michigan. I mean, I like Cutter. I love the upside. He's still sporadic. The pocket presence is not good at this time. And, to his credit, there were a lot of plays that he did make where you look at it and you're like, man, that arm talent is there. And if we can get it between the ears and get him to where he feels comfortable, then I think we actually got something here. But I just want to caution Kentucky fans who think that he's there now, because he's not.
I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. He's not there. And again, this wasn't a game where I sit back and look and say, like, Cutter's the guy. But as bad as – I'm not even going to say as bad. I thought he was fine in this game. I mean, you talked about 12 of 21. He only threw the ball 21 times. You just mentioned a handful of drops. Those get reeled in. That number is closer to 65% completion percentage. I was more worried as to why they didn't let him throw it more. We talked about, like, we're going to be able to run the ball against Eastern Michigan. This was never a game. This would have been a time to kind of let him, explore that a little bit. But I will say, even on a couple of the, drops or, that throw he had to Caddis in the end zone where, he just quite doesn't come down with it. Like, those are throws Calzada has not come anywhere close to making. The presence in the pocket is not the greatest, but at least he's not running 6 yards backwards every time he snaps the football. Like, he stands in the pocket. He made that throw to Caddis, I thought, was really good. He had the one on down the sideline to Caddis on the same drive, that was just a perfect ball placement. I thought he threw a really good ball to Hardly Gilmore in the end zone that, Gilmore just didn't come up with, and it kind of had a late hand knock it out. I mean, he is throwing the ball where if your receivers and tight ends can make a play, he's putting it there where only they can make a play.
Yeah, I agree and disagree to an extent, kind of just like how I mentioned. I'd love to see PFF's charting from this game. I actually haven't been able to look it up yet. But I know for a fact he has to have at least been charged with 2 turnover-worthy plays. I mean, there was...
Yeah, it was on the same drive.
Yeah. And, I mean, how much different are we looking at if Eastern Michigan just comes down with that ball? You're talking about, 12 for 21 with 2 picks. I mean, it's just this did not inspire any confidence in me with Cutter. This is exactly what I expected from Cutter. I didn't see any growth from what Cutter was last year to this year. And with that being all the offseason was talked about how much he's taken a step, I just didn't see it. And don't get me wrong, Zach has left a lot to be desired, and I'm not advocating for Zach to get that job back. I don't know who I'd start right now if I was in that building. I really don't. I don't know who vibes better with. I know Hardly, Josh, and Willie especially all vibe a lot better with Cutter Boley. Now, do the receivers get along a lot better with Calzada? I don't know. That's something, we're not going to know. But, man, I really don't think there is a good option. I mean, I don't know if Ponatotsky wants to come down from Moeller and see if, maybe he can play as a high school senior, but I don't know, guys. I can't talk myself into it. I'd love to, and I love the upside. I love the talent that Cutter Boley has. Right now, he is a redshirt freshman version of Zach Calzada. Whether you guys want to hear that or not, they are very much along the same playing fields. It's just one is 65 years old and the other one is 19.
Well, but I would argue the 19-year-old looks more poised and comfortable in the offense. Now, whether, or there's some throws he makes that, he shouldn't, sure. But, I mean, again, like, even if you were looking at this game of he went 15 of 21 with 2 touchdowns and a pick, like, you'd still kind of take that. I mean, honestly, like, this whole debate to me is kind of pointless. We said before the game, like, there wasn't really anything they could show me that was going to flip my perception of the season just because of the team that Eastern Michigan is. I feel as confident in Cutter as I did coming into it. I thought he played fine. I'm not going to act like he set the world on fire, but I did see a handful of throws that Calzada just simply has not made this year. And I think when you're talking about what are you going to do for the future, you have to say, we're going to put the guy that gives us an opportunity to make some throws here and there. Yeah, he might make some turnovers, but you know what? Calzada's probably going to do that as well. So I say you go with the guy that has the ability to make some really good throws and have really good ball placement, and give these tight ends, if the receivers aren't going to do it, give the tight ends a chance to go up and get a ball here and there that, can maybe flip a game on its head.
Yeah, Tyler, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this, because I personally I genuinely don't see the difference. They both have bad pocket presence, and the only thing that I can give you to where I think it's why I would lean Cutter playing over Zach is just because it's his second year in this offensive scheme, and him and Bush maybe have a little bit better of a camaraderie than Zach and Bush do. Outside of that, I just don't know what the difference is, but I'd probably lean Cutter as well.
Zach, Cutter, Zach. I mean, it's just really tough because it's like, to your guys' point, okay, fine. Cutter has a little more poise in the pocket. Good. I expect him to have a little more poise being in year 2. But, I mean, Cam, to your point, is the production going to be there? I mean, I just don't. I don't feel great with either one of them. And that's a problem. I think that goes up to the coaching staff. I mean, there's not really a right or wrong answer. I think that's going to really help us down the road. Our game plan isn't going to be going through the quarterback. So for me, ultimately, it really doesn't matter who's in there. Throw the third string in. I don't even know who it is. Just throw them in there. Give them a shot in this game. I don't feel great about either quarterback going down the road. I just don't. I don't have any confidence in them. We had more confidence in Connor. We've been playing it from the beginning. Zach was supposed to be the guy, and he's kind of fallen off. He's not really shown anything. He had a couple of good throws early. He got my hopes up on the first drive of the first game, and then since then it's really been, what's Zach doing? So, we're going to run this game through Seth and Dante, but I just don't have confidence in either one. So, I mean, to answer your question, Cam, just pick one. Pick one and ride with them. Let them go the season.
I know we're doing this, so we're obviously going to talk about it, but the thing for me is this whole conversation, and I think is pretty much irrelevant until in 2 weeks you go to South Carolina and you kind of see it's there again. There wasn't anything they were going to show me in this game. I'm more disappointed with only letting them throw the ball 21 times. I would have liked to, again, maybe we have a bigger sample size, and if you let him throw it 35 times and, you realize, hey, he went out there and threw 3 picks, or he, completed a higher percentage of his passes throughout the game. I mean, we knew we were going to be able to run the ball against Eastern Michigan. That wasn't going to be a challenge. This game, even though they scored in the 20s, there was never a moment where it was close. There was never a moment where you felt like you had to run the football to pull away or anything like that. So it is what it is. We're not going to – there's no more data to kind of analyze until really South Carolina.
And to that point, Boyers, I was kind of hoping that they would try that. I mean, we all knew that this is a run-first offense, and we get that. But we haven't really tested our quarterbacks in anything. Our receivers have been struggling all year. I didn't see any situations where they were trying to drive downfield or get some actual passing drives down the field just to see what momentum we could get. I know that's not our thing necessarily, and I'm not trying to break away from what we're going to be doing all season, especially against South Carolina, Texas, whoever else. But I would love to have just seen it live and in action a little bit more. To your point, get a little more of a sample size. 12 of 21 for 240 yards. Cut that in half against any other SEC competition. It's just going to be a tough matchup. You're looking probably more like a 90-yard game, 90 to 110-yard game against South Carolina with this kind of production. At least from what I'm gathering, just from what I've watched over the last couple of years. So I'm not impressed. I'm not upset, but I'm not impressed.
Yeah, honestly, this is the game that I don't think any of us know the extent of Calzada's injury, if that was more of a phantom injury or if this is just hey, I kind of want to save your reputation a little bit. We're going to go with the young guy. Let's put you on the shelf with this shoulder injury and just call it that. But this honestly would have been the game where I would have wanted to have seen Calzada, because it looked, from everything I've seen from him, if you watch him at Incarnate Word and even back in his time at Texas A&M, he's a momentum guy. You build up the momentum, and he's going to ride it. This would have been the game where I'd like to have seen him come in, because, like I told you guys before we got on the podcast, I genuinely think Bo Allen throws for 240 yards in this game. I was so, I don't want to say I was so uninspired by Cutter Diggs. There's 3 or 4 throws in there that people didn't come down with, that if they do, changes the entire complexion of what he did. But I was expecting a lot more from him. I'm kind of disappointed with what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree. Again, I don't think he played bad, like some have said. I thought he played fine. I thought he showed you enough to continue to kind of ride him and let him be the quarterback in 2 weeks when you go to South Carolina. I really did. But I mean, looking around the SEC, we're not the only one with bad quarterback play these days. That game from DJ Lagway was disgusting. My Heisman pick and Arch Manning looks like he can't hit an open receiver to save his life. Cam, I mean, your Heisman pick and Garrett Nussmeier, I mean, he's looked okay. I'm not like there's a lot of bad quarterback play to go around the SEC this year. I mean, Linnell Sellers, everybody was penciling in as a first round pick. He has looked bad this year. I mean, he got absolutely worked against a not great Vandy defense. And so, I mean, we're not the only team that's having these frustrating quarterback talks, I think. We're just probably the team that expected it the most coming into the year.
Yeah, which makes it that much worse. But still, I mean, all right. Wasn't anticipating on that being such a negative topic. But now what I was anticipating being negative, outside of the very first play where David Rayner gets an interception, this defense, I mean, I get it. And I texted you guys in our group chat early in the game, like, there are redshirt freshmen getting out here in the second series, and they're rotating them early. The bad thing is I didn't necessarily see the redshirt freshmen and the young guys making the mistakes. I saw the guys that we rely on week in, week out. I saw Lovett make a good amount of mistakes. I saw Alfari get caught in places he shouldn't have. I saw JQ Hardaway not step up. It was the guys that you would have expected to be, on their P's and Q's, on top of their game for this one. And it was anything but. And something I really want to talk about, because, we mention it all the time. This team in 2 minutes, the defense especially, what are we doing, man? 2 minutes, under 2 minutes in this game, we let Eastern Michigan score 10 points right before half. Eastern Michigan. In any sort of tempo so far this year, this defense has been just throttled. And that scares me for when we start to play teams who can go up tempo. The South Carolina can if they want to, and especially if Lenore Sellers is going to be healthy, that's something that's going to scare me.
Yeah, I mean,
we saw it last week. Go ahead, Morris.
I was just going to say, you saw that kind of same thing when Toledo went up tempo, and we kind of all made the, not the excuse, but we kind of said, like, yeah, well, it's a 2-score game with, a couple minutes, you kind of relax. This game, I don't know. You expect, especially those veterans on that team, to not really kind of take a game off, but that's what it kind of looked like to me. That's what I'm hoping it is, at least, because, like, that's obviously fixable, we
had guys taking too many games off last year. I can't do it again.
I agree, but, like, I'm hoping it's just something as simple as that. This is a team that lost to Long Island a week ago. There's no world where they score enough points to, compete. We don't really have to kind of be on our P's and Q's. I'm hoping that I see a tweet that they were maybe all at a tailgate at 8 a.m. and because, I mean, that's at least, like, fixable. But, yeah, I mean, I said it, 460 yards to Eastern Michigan is a pretty absurd stat. And, again, you had the pick to start the game. But after that, like, Eastern Michigan just moved the ball right on you. And, if their coach doesn't call a timeout on that 4th and 1, they're probably scoring a touchdown on that second drive because, I mean, you could have drove a bus through that lane. And then, they call the timeout and come out and run the exact same play, which I didn't understand. I mean, we talk about some poor coaching decisions here in Kentucky. That was questionable one to say the least. But yeah, very uninspiring play from the defense after having playing really well, I thought, against Ole Miss, but especially early, the run defense. I mean, every time they handed the ball off, it felt like they were getting 7-8 yards, and then the passing game kind of came along a few drives later. So, not the defense's best day for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can step up a little bit better. 23 points against Eastern Michigan. Field day in the pass game. It felt like the holes were open. I'm going to give them a little bit of a break because maybe they were just taking a Saturday off. I don't know if they were just trying new things. I don't know. I assume that this is going to be a better defense playing against other teams, but I mean, it does get you a little nervous. But I still don't think the defense is our weakness on our team by any means. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a break. I'm going to I'm going to pause for a second on it, but. I mean, I do get a little worried when I see 23 come up. I mean, I think I predicted 10 points just, because guys rotate late in the game. I didn't think it was going to be 23-48 at the end of the game. So I didn't think a quarterback was going to outpass our quarterback. And our quarterback's having maybe the best game they've had since they played Ohio U last year. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Like I said, the part that scares me is just the ability to not play up-tempo. Like, you've seen it now through 3 games when teams do get up-tempo and they do start to move the ball. Like when Toledo did it, we had no answer. When Ole Miss got that first down of the drive and then allows them to just get into their up-tempo, we had no answer. Didn't have one for Eastern Michigan. And as a team that lost to Texas State and Long Island, we don't have an answer to their up-tempo offense. Yeah, we've mentioned the SEC offenses haven't been the best so far this year with the quarterback struggles that are going on. I got to believe that they're better than Noah Kim. Something's got to tell me that they're better than Noah Kim. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I think you would.
Yeah, I would hope so.
But, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any other takes about this defense, because the thing is that, like, you look at it, and you think we would profile well to go against up-tempo teams. Our linebackers are both smaller guys who can, cover from sideline to sideline. You think we have the corners. I'm starting to get a little concerned about JQ Hardaway at this point. He's a guy who I penciled in as being our lockdown corner. DJ Waller missed this week, which you saw a little bit. We're having to rotate to Ryan Nichols and guys like that. I mean, is this corner room and safeties especially? Like, Jordan Lovett's been out of position a lot. You've noticed him. Usually when you notice a safety, it's usually not a good thing. It's like noticing a long snapper. When you notice them, it's usually for something bad that's going on. I'm starting to draw concerns with this cornerback and safety room. I don't know if you guys are starting to get there, but 330 yards passing against Eastern Michigan. I don't care if 99 yards of it was on one play. That's still unacceptable.
Yeah, I told you last week I didn't use the word worried, and like maybe now I'm kind of getting there with JQ Hardaway, but I just felt a little underwhelmed based on what we were expecting. You said it, and I agreed with you. I thought we would be talking about a potential all-conference type player out there to fill that Maxwell Harrison role, and it really just hasn't clicked. And again, if you can't go out there and shut down Eastern Michigan, there's a lot of playmakers in the SEC that even if they have a bad quarterback, they're going to find ways to burn you. But yeah, the secondary in general, I mean, who's been the bright spot out of that group? Ty Bryant, I guess, because he had the 2 picks. Like, other than that, there's not really a player that I would say coming from the secondary you really kind of feel good about their season a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, that's at least when I think of it. I mean, even Ty, you've seen him out of position at points. He just happened to have those 2 interceptions.
It's really just because he had those 2 picks.
Yeah, so even him, I don't know. I really thought that was going to be a strength. And the part that, really frustrates me is I was the guy at the front of the train telling people, get on board with JQ Hardaway and get on.
You yelled at me last week when I said he was disappointing.
I'm telling you, man, I was out in the front of that train getting everybody I could on. And now, I'm a quarter of the way through the tracks and I'm looking around and I'm like, guys, you might want to start looking for exits. might want to. I'm not saying to get off here yet, but you might want to
No.
start looking at exits and find those fire escapes. See where you can get out. It's never bad to check your emergency exits, but I'm
Yeah,
not there yet. But I will tell you what, this did get me a little bit closer to it.
yeah. I wasn't gonna say he was like bad against Ole Miss. I used the word underwhelming and slightly disappointing, but I would say definitively Saturday it was a pretty bad performance, and you're starting to string them along. And again, we're a third of the way through. You played two offenses that you probably should have been better against in Toledo and Eastern Michigan in your passing defense, and we just weren't.
Yeah, and I don't know where the next step is because I don't. This South Carolina offense has kind of struggled so far. So, I mean, you're assuming Lenora Sellers is going to be healthy. It was a concussion for why he was out against Vanderbilt. So you're assuming he will be healthy and ready to go. But then you're looking at it and you're like, well, it's a bye week for the Cats. So, I mean, that's just an automatic loss coming off a bye week for us. I mean, I don't know what you guys are looking forward to in this game, but if you guys got anything here, I mean, what are you guys looking for, just in general? Is this a defense get right game? Is this a lean on the offense, lean on the run game? Because South Carolina, if you watched any of that Vanderbilt game, they could not stop the run. And if that's something that I'm looking at, and I'm Seth McGowan, I'm looking at a $150 plus and 2 more touchdowns, and people around the SEC are starting to look, and they're like, hey, you guys checked out this Kentucky running back? He's got 8 touchdowns already this season.
I mean, I'm looking at this game as much more winnable than I thought 3 weeks ago. I mean, we were talking about South Carolina being a top 10 team that was, we talked about there were potentially 3 unwinnable games on the schedule, and, this being one of them. I've watched a lot of South Carolina this year. I watched that entire Virginia Tech game because I bet on Virginia Tech. And I know South Carolina won and covered, but they needed 2 huge special team plays to kind of get in that position. This offense has not been good, and that was kind of what was supposed to be their strength. Now, South Carolina still going to be the favorite in this game? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But, this game is winnable and very winnable. And they play at Missouri this weekend, and then they got to turn around and play us. Obviously Kentucky's not been good off a bye, so, that's a major concern. If they can find a way to finally right that wrong a little bit, to say, then this game is a winnable game and could be a big time, working on getting you to a bowl and just build some really strong momentum because it's there. This South Carolina team is just not near as good as people thought they were going to be coming into the season.
Yeah, man. Can this just be complete roles reversed from the South Carolina game last year where they come in and, they were almost a double-digit dog and they just wiped the floor? Now, I'm not anticipating us going in and wiping the floor with this team, but
we owe
them. Their best win so far this year is against Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech was awful.
They got killed by Vandy. And again, they needed 2 huge special teams. They had a punt return. They had another block kick. They needed a lot. Virginia Tech, I thought, watching the game was almost the better team throughout. And again, I watched every single snap because I was hoping that they could hold on and cover. But it just South Carolina is not near as good as people kind of thought and talked about.
I mean, BT is now 0-3 and has fired their head coach 3 games into the season, and that you're talking about that's being South Carolina's best win. And you mentioned they needed a lot of help to win that one. I think it's a winnable game for the Cats, but the weird thing is as down as I am on South Carolina, I think I'm as down on this Kentucky team as well. So I don't know where to go with this. Tyler, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that they didn't do well against Vandy. I don't know if that's more to say about Vandy, if that's more to say about South Carolina right now, but I guess we'll see what they do on the road. They're playing Missouri next week. That'll be more of a bounce back game for South Carolina. A little bit more to read off of, but I mean, I do like our chances. I think that we kind of play into the weaknesses that we've seen so far. However, I don't think that we can do what we did last year where we kind of see, hey, the last game that we saw South Carolina play, they lost 31-7. Let's go in there and have a good game against them. It's exactly what we did last year, and we got rolled over. So I think we can play, if we can take this bye week and use it to play well against them, then I think that will benefit us. I do have us winning this game from the offseason predictions, so I'm hoping that we can play well against this team and run the ball against them and play some good defense. Hopefully get back to a good base defense that can play that can compete against an SEC team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you were there for a different South Carolina game than I was last year, but South Carolina was undefeated coming into that game, so they weren't following a loss. But so you lost me a little there, so I'm a little confused on what we're talking about. But I
think he came off a slower game. I think he came off a bad game, is what we were looking at, not a loss. But
yeah, we had such higher hopes for that Kentucky team at that point in the year going up against South Carolina, and we didn't know, at that point Lenore Sellers was so unproven. And at that point, they really weren't as good of a team as they finished the year as. They finished the year winning a lot of games and winning a lot of close games and, just being a lot better team. I mean, there's talks about Shane Beamer already going to be the VT head coach. I mean, that's been something that you've heard swirling a little bit. He's denied those rumors, but, I mean, is this something that you can capitalize on? They overlook Kentucky. They look at us. They look at you and say, this team was more talented last year. We went in there and rolled them. We got them at home. Let's overlook them again. They got Missouri, and then, I mean, after us, they've got LSU. So I think they're going to be more in tune with both of those games. I'm hoping this is the polar opposite of last year, where we go in as road dogs, find a way to scrape out a win. Seth McGowan might have to have 50, 60 carries for that to happen. So hopefully he's got those legs iced up and ready to go, get some compression boots on. But, I mean, I think that would be the key to the victory. I don't know if I'm going to be able to predict that, but we still got 2 weeks before we have to give out any predictions. So I'm not going to give out the predictions yet because we also need to know if Lenore Sellers is going to be healthy, if he's playing and all of that. But, Jake, what would you say are keys to a victory against South Carolina to get this team going? And because at 3-1, you're starting to look at getting this fan base a little bit more involved because right now, even though that Eastern Michigan game you did win by 25, I think this fan base is still a little checked out.
Yeah, no, but I mean, if you do go and win that game, I think you'll have a decent amount of the fan base back. Especially like if South Carolina can go and win at Missouri this weekend, and maybe look a little better. We'll talk ourselves into kind of being back on board. I think you're going to have to kind of see a similar game to kind of how Ole Miss shaped out last year, and really kind of even how Ole Miss shaped out this year, where it was kind of a winnable game. You're going to have to, for the most part, take care of the football. I agree with you. You're going to have to run it a ton. The defense is going to have to be better. Again, the South Carolina offense has been horrific, whether Sellers has been in the game or not. So there's a path there to go out there, and you're going to have to go win one of those low-scoring kind of rock fight games of 20 to 17 or 23-20. But this is definitely there. And 3 weeks ago, before the season started, I didn't think there was really a world where Kentucky wins the game. We got some time to make our predictions, but I'm going to talk myself into probably predicting Kentucky wins because I don't think this South Carolina team is very good.
Yeah, boy, am I trying not to talk myself into it. I'm trying not to. But, the inner fan comes out. I mean, it's like an inner child. You just can't keep him away. He goes in there. He's like, my team sucks. But if this is going to happen, we got a chance.
Okay. I'll tell you, as a guy, though, holding the Vandy Moneyline ticket on Saturday, I was pretty excited to see just how bad South Carolina was.
Hey, I mean, I hope they play like that here in 2 weeks. But it has been announced that's going to be a night kickoff.
Yep.
In South Carolina. South Carolina's got a really good atmosphere.
Yep.
So, tell you what, this is a nice road test for this team. We haven't seen them on the road yet. Got 2 weeks to prepare for it. So
it's crazy as that is.
If I see us call a timeout on an extra point like we did against Eastern Michigan this week, I will lose my mind. Why in the world are you taking a timeout on an extra point? Can somebody explain? I forgot to bring this up while we were talking about the Eastern Michigan game. What in the world? You can run 6 guys out there. I don't care. It could be just me. Guess what? You're going to give up 2 is the worst. But I digress. You guys take the floor on it. I've given my piece.
Just more disorganization. And what's crazy is, you would think in like most coaching staffs and most like fan bases, you say like, having the extra week to prepare and get ready for it would make you feel bad. I would feel 100% better about this game if we were playing Saturday. The fact that we're not playing Saturday and then playing, like, that's where my biggest level of concern with the South Carolina game goes. Like, I could think we're going to win, and the fact that you're giving them the week off to prepare, like, we could go out and lose by 4 touchdowns, and South Carolina could look like the best offense that's ever touched, since the greatest show on turf. So
I might go down to Lexington this weekend just to scout out the paddock in the hill. And I swear, if I see one of those guys running around the paddock or the hill chasing some blondes around, like that's what I'm there for. Not you guys. I don't have to prepare for this game like you do. So I mean, I'm not taking any shots at Willie. I don't need to see you after the Vandy game again beat me to the paddock. I don't need to see it again. Willie, I think we've grown. But you mentioned it. I would love to be playing South Carolina this week. You get Lenoris after he's still a little banged up. They might not rush him back. Who knows if he is going to play this week? That's just a completely different team with Lenore Sellers off the field. And genuinely, you thought that team was going to take a step? I haven't seen any sort of a step. I wish we were playing them this week. I think there's a good chance Missouri beats them this year. And I didn't think that going into the season. I would have completely bet the opposite. I think there's a good chance Missouri wins that game. And then Mark Stoops has got 2 weeks to prepare. So 2-2, go the guys.
We just have to. Like, we got to go beat Beamer. We can't keep losing to that freaking
He sucks.
Dork, man. Like, he's the biggest loser out there, and like we can't keep losing to it. At some point, like, I know it's a game Mark Stoops obviously wants really bad after like the kind of trash talk they've gone back and forth. But you know what, Mark? At some point, you got to go beat him. So, like, this would be a good one.
I got a little bit of a take here. Tell me if you agree with this, Boyers. Tyler Britton looks a little bit like Shane Beamer.
Here we go.
Can you take the glasses off and go put on some stupid old Soldier Boy shades and start jumping around, turn the lights off?
He looks a little bit like Shane Beamer.
I gotta pull it. I gotta re-pull up a picture.
I'm telling you, there's a little bit of a resemblance. It's a little bit there.
It's there. I mean, Tyler, that could be a cousin for sure. I mean, you got a very similar personality as well. You're by far the most hated person on this podcast. He's by far the most hated SEC coach.
I just want our fans to know that Jacob was just called out for being mean to me last weekend at his house for watching a football game. So I don't know what I did to deserve this hate, but I don't know. I don't know. I'll digress. I'll be the bigger person here. You guys just suck.
Yeah, should we? We'll talk a little non-UK football real quick. I did get told by multiple people when I had Tyler over for the Bengals game on last Sunday that I was a little mean to him. But can we talk about the fact that the guy that's on a UK podcast showed up to my house, a UK fan's house, wearing an Ohio State hat? So, yes, I threw the hat multiple times. And you know what?
Multiple times.
I would venture to say that the people that, listen to this podcast and UK fans in general would not say that I was mean. They would say it was absolutely 100% the right thing to do. And some might even question my integrity because I allowed you to stay. So,
I'll take one and help you. Friend of all of ours, Nicholas Phillips. We are sitting there watching the Kentucky and Georgia game. This guy sends us all a picture and says, "Go Vols."
Georgia, Tennessee game, not Kentucky. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I meant. You knew where I was going.
Yep.
But Georgia, Tennessee. This guy says, "Go Vols."
Dude,
Buddy, that is one of our biggest rivals. That's our second biggest rival behind U of L. And honestly, the way U of L basketball had been for so long, Tennessee might have taken that top reign for a couple of years. And for this kid to say, "Go Vols," I'm going to clip this and send it to him just so he knows how much of a clown take that was.
If Tennessee was playing ISIS, I would put my mask on and grab the flag and start flying it. Like, what are we doing here? Again, like, the only team it would maybe be acceptable. maybe be acceptable, and you still can't say go Vols. You just have to root that the entire stadium collapses as if they're playing Louisville. But you still, the words go Vols can never be said in a.
Just hope for a tie or like a natural disaster to happen if that's going on.
Yes. But like, I don't like Georgia, but I can promise you who I was not rooting for in that game, and that was Tennessee.
Yeah, I just felt that had to be mentioned. I was going to take a little bit of heat off of Shane Beamer / Tyler Britton up at the top for the Ohio State hat. But
yeah, you're right. That was worse. That was really bad. When I saw that, I think I replied to it with just a picture of me flipping him off because I didn't know how else to respond to such a mistake.
That might have been the perfect way to respond. All right, guys. One last thing before we sign off of here. We're a quarter of the way through the season. I think everybody here, except for myself, has their perfect predictions of what they thought going into the preseason. I obviously had us upsetting Ole Miss preseason, changed it during the season. Do you guys feel better about this Kentucky team getting to that 6 wins that you had them allotted for, or do you feel worse at this point with the team you've seen so far?
Well, I think, and it's kind of weird because I think I feel a little better about the path to 6, but not necessarily because of Kentucky. Like we just talked about it, the South Carolina game's a lot more winnable than maybe I thought. Again, this past Saturday didn't tell me one way or another about Kentucky. I didn't think there was anything we could have saw that would have changed my opinion on the overall season. But with that being said, also that game at Vandy now looks like a tougher win. So like it goes both ways, right? Yeah, and Auburn as well. So I mean, I had them winning Vandy and Auburn and losing to South Carolina. I'm gonna still be okay at 6, but if you go and lose in 2 weeks at South Carolina, you're probably staring down another 4-win season because it could get really ugly, and those teams at the back half of the schedule that we thought would be kind of your easier games are looking like more of your challenging games.
Yeah, well, let's say it this way: if Vegas were to come to you with this line of the Kentucky win total at 5.5, just because that's right in the middle of yours, which one would you take? Because I think right now, just based on what I've seen from this Kentucky team, now granted, like you mentioned, I do think this South Carolina game has gotten a little easier, but I also thought that Ole Miss game was going to be a little easier. Now, yeah. I think the Florida game's gotten a lot easier for you, but as you mentioned, 2 games got easier for you, but also Vandy and Auburn got a lot harder for you. So there's a little bit of give and take. I think I personally, right now, if I could redo my preseason predictions, would probably be at 5 wins.
Yeah, I would lean the under. And let's be real, like I fully fanboyed into getting us to 6, right? I came in the entire time saying I was going to pick 4, and then once I found that 5th one, the gears started turning, and then I was like, I can never, ever, ever not throw the L's down. And so then we went with, a win to round out the year. So, I mean, yeah, if you made me put $100 one way or the other, I would go under the 5.5. But yeah, the fan in me will still kind of talk myself into we're going to beat South Carolina, we're going to beat Florida, we're going to go win at Vandy and have 6. But we'll see.
All right, Tyler, how are you feeling about that preseason prediction? Where do you think the Cats are headed?
Well, look, I mean, so far I've been correct on all my picks. My score predictions have been in the ballpark. I wouldn't say perfect, but in a ballpark range.
Way to go. You picked the favorite in every game.
Yeah. Wait,
Give yourself a big pat on the back for that one.
I mean, I didn't choose Ole Miss.
That was the most Shane Beamer kind of confidence I've ever.
I mean,
luckily I don't have the technology to put up a Shane Beamer picture for you instead, or else that would be it.
I'll tweet it out after the show.
Here we go. I would say that I'm not panicking, but I would probably tell people my predictions so far have been right, and then I would slide my money to the under. I'm starting to get to the point where I'm starting to get worried. We'll see what happens against South Carolina here. But I think there's a real chance where if we don't end up beating South Carolina, that we could end up winning only 3 games. Because I see us going on a pretty bad lose streak. And last year, we saw how that kind of helped us really tank ourselves late in the season. It looks like we just kind of quit late in the year. And so I worry about that. So I'm going to take the under just because even if we beat South Carolina, it's a tough road to get to 6, but I just get a little worried just based on how our team's played as a unit so far that the South Carolina game is going to be a lot closer than I even thought it was going to be.
And I'll say real quick, Cam, I like this South Carolina game. I think is now flipped to by far the most important game of the season, which is it's crazy because I before the season still had them getting to 6, even losing this one. But like if you lose against South Carolina, then you're at Georgia, Texas, Tennessee at home, and then at Auburn. Like you would have to pull
easily.
You would have to pull a major upset to win a single one of those. So like you could be spiraling. So like if you want to make a bowl, I think you almost have to win next Saturday.
I completely agree with you. The way you just laid it out, I mean, that's a recipe to go 2-5 if you don't pull out this win at South Carolina. And we've seen it with Stoops teams. You find a way to win these games that not really supposed to. That usually trickles to another win somewhere down the line.
Yeah, but we're gonna talk all of ourselves into winning this game, and they're gonna this won't be a Mark Stoops back against the wall because we're all gonna say that South Carolina sucks and we're gonna go down there and win and so.
That's the weird thing about this season is like I think the team has performed almost exactly how we would have said.
Yeah.
And yet we still don't know enough about them. But the way the SEC has changed so far kind of still doesn't really give you the full clarity of the picture because I think we all thought Texas was going to be really good. Texas has looked abysmal so far. I mean, the best football they probably played was against Ohio State. Outside of that, they have not looked good. You mentioned Arch didn't look good. It's not – I don't think it's a winnable game, but is it a little easier? Did that chance go from 4% to 8% now? I mean, they haven't looked good. So, and Georgia hasn't been – I mean, they just barely got out of Tennessee alive, had to, get some help there. We always play Georgia close anyways. I mean, I think a lot of the games you look at, and there might be a picture painted in a way that you can get a win in those games, but it's still uphill battles. And almost every single game we have to play left, except for maybe Florida, obviously Tennessee Tech, and Louisville. Those are probably the only games where you can look at it and the spread is going to be less than a touchdown before.
One thing I will say that my outlook on this team has changed slightly is that I think
the
floor
McGowan is.
Well, but I think the floor is a little higher than like maybe I thought it would be. Like I really don't see like outside of maybe at Georgia like games where you're just not competitive and not in it like you were a year ago. Like I think with the way they can run the ball, I know this defense we obviously have concerns after Saturday, but like I know you mentioned it before the season, Cam. Like you thought their floor was higher to the point where like there's not 3 wins on the table, like that was off the table. I think now are they going to find a way to manage the clock at the end of the game or steal points at the end of a first half to like actually go win these games like an Ole Miss? But I think the floor is high enough to where they'll be in most of these games outside of maybe Georgia, and then there's a world where Tennessee could hang like 50 on you.
I'm worried about the Heupel.
They look good. I mean, that offense looks pretty dang good without Nico.
Just kind of let Joey Aguilar do something ridiculous in the third and fourth quarter like he did last week. But I'll tell you what.
I could see Heupel coming in here and hanging a 50 burger.
If I had to pick Kentucky's biggest loss this year, that would be the one that I would pick. Just numbers wise, the scheme they play, the up-temponess they play with, and the fact that right now, we mentioned it. What do we feel the worst about is that secondary. At least that's me personally. Like I feel like I've seen a lot from Mike Weiss, Humphrey Grace, David Gusta, Sackham Souls. I mean, he's been great. He's had 3 sacks already so far this season. I feel good about that defensive line. Linebackers, David Rayner gets out of position a little bit. I mean, you expect that from how undersized he is. Afari's played really well. He's had some plays we wish he had back. It's really just that secondary. I think if we get them to tighten up, I feel like this defense could be, I don't want to say elite, but at least a top half unit in the SEC. And I think a lot of that comes with, I think Brad White just got to trust these guys more. There's nothing that drives me crazier than looking at a guy with length who's 6'3", 6'4", with long arms, and we're playing him 10 yards off the ball in zone. It drives me insane. Now, obviously, Brad knows these guys better. Maybe JQ doesn't have that long speed to do play press like that. Maybe DJ doesn't have that long speed. But against Eastern Michigan, I would have loved to have seen him try.
It could also be, you know, again, I'm not saying this is what happened because I thought the defense was just bad, but like there is a world where Brad White's looking at it, and you know he always plays a prevent style defense where he could have just went in overdrive on Saturday because in his mind the only way you let Eastern Michigan make this a game is if they take a couple plays where they, you know, break one or take the top off. So you're just pretty much keeping everything in front of you, and then you let them make mistakes on 4th and 1 like you saw. So I mean, it could have just been a philosophy thing for this Eastern Michigan game, but I would lean towards the defense just probably played bad. That's just me trying to give us a little hope for the rest of the year on the defensive side of the ball. One thing I'll say quickly about Tennessee is our one small glimmer of hope is that we are sandwiched in between them being at Alabama and Oklahoma at home. Is there a world where they're, you know, coming off maybe a high of beating Alabama on the road, and then they're looking at that Oklahoma game, and who knows, maybe they're talking about game day being there for Oklahoma, and they have all this vibe, and they come in here.
Well, I don't think Oklahoma will be in the spot to have game day anyways. I think Oklahoma.
We'll see.
Hey, John Mateer's been a lot better than I thought.
Yeah.
You know, I listened to an NFL draft stock exchange, and this guy loves John Mateer. And so far, he's played great. Now, hopefully, you know, keeps it going. I thought he was going to be a draft prospect last year and ended up having to come back to school. So,
I mean, they only play 2 ranked teams before they get to Tennessee. So, I mean, there's a world that they're, you know, relevant enough to, you know, for that to be a big game at Tennessee. So, I'm just saying, there is a world. We're sandwiched in between. Again, this is me getting a little delusional and trying to, you know, get the wheels turning on how can we find a way to keep this close and potentially steal it. And I think that's your path. You let them, Tennessee goes and beats Alabama at Alabama. They're getting all excited. They're going to host game day for the Oklahoma game, and they come in here and they're just not on their game.
I love it. I love the enthusiasm, but that game is also still like a month and a half away. So let's pump the brakes on that one. We got some. Trust me, we don't need to start talking ourselves into it a month and a half. We can do good enough a week. So, all right, guys, we're obviously gonna have a podcast here for you next week after South Carolina plays Missouri, and hopefully, you know, not hopefully Lenoris doesn't play. Let's just hope. I don't want him to be injured.
He hasn't even looked good when he has played.
Yeah, but guess what? I mean, that's still the threat of having Lenore Sellers, I think, will put Brad White into a certain type of prevent defense that I think would allow South Carolina to get going more than they would. So I don't want him to be maybe just like academically ineligible. I don't think that even works in today's NCAA, so that might not even be a thing. But let's hope for something like that. You guys have anything that you want to tell Big Blue Nation before we hop off?
Nope. Let's use this. Let's finally properly use a bye week, and let's prepare for South Carolina.
Let's do it. I mean, we got to beat Shane Beamer. I can't see that guy walking off that field at a night game, having that post-game interview with whoever's going to be the sideline reporter for that game, and having a smile on his face. I just can't have it. I need to see Stoops with a smile on his face. Somebody in the comments on TikTok, and don't get me wrong, Mark, I hope you're not listening because you're probably going to find this offensive. Somebody said he looked like Bucky, which is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. But I'd rather see Coach Stoops with that big old grin after a South Carolina win. But, guys, that's all we've got here for you for the Cats Talk podcast. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X. Jake's doing some great work over there. And we're on Spotify, Amazon Music, any place you get your podcast, YouTube, anywhere you get it. Follow us there. Guys, until next week, go Big Blue.
Go Big
Go
Blue.
Blue.